I have scheduled it for Tuesday night as the first order of business at the City Council meeting. I think it's very appropriate that we be sworn in at council meeting, and it also doesn't cause people to have to disrupt their schedules and to come to it if they are so minded. So we've set it for 7 o'clock Tuesday night at City Council meeting.
Some of the disruption over the election, some of the candidates were concerned about where people vote. You said you accepted the responsibility and were working on the problem. What has been done?
Well, the problem was that as mayor, acting mayor at the time, I divorced myself from the election procedure and machinery so as not to have any conflict of interest, turned it over to a merit system employee to handle. And there were several errors committed, not intentionally, but errors nevertheless. There should have been an advertisement in the paper showing the council districts and location of voting places in each council district by name. There should have been a card sent to each registered voter in the city outlining where he or she was to vote. Then there should have been maps and a more detailed explanation available at each voting precinct. If people who thought that they voted at one place came there, then the election officials could have told them to go to such and such a place to vote. These remedies will be taken, and next time it'll be done with a minimum of confusion.
Do you expect a challenge legally of the election between now and Tuesday night?
I can't speak for anybody and what they might do, but nearest candidate is some 12,000 votes behind, so it'd have to have been some 12,000 errors for it to make any difference, and the one behind that is some 15,000 votes behind. And I have great faith in our election officials. They are honest and they're dedicated, and they wouldn't knowingly make a mistake for anything in the world. So my decision rests very safely in their hands.
From Mobile, Alabama to the Clearwater, Tampa, Florida area. It's a favorite route for millionaires and their yachts. The area is not patrolled frequently by authorities, and drug smugglers favor the route, bringing drugs from South America aimed at the West Florida, South Alabama coastline. On October 25, 1976, Montgomery millionaire businessman John Dite, 3 passengers, and his yacht, the Flying Dutchman, took the West Florida Triangle. By midday the next day, all had vanished without a trace.
from the start, when the boat supposedly disappeared, it just seemed absolutely ridiculous to me that a boat that size would go down in weather that was not inclement, and with two very knowledgeable seamen aboard. Terry and John knew the sea very well, and they certainly knew that boat. And the fact that there was absolutely not one trace of debris found, so you can say all you want to, but boat that size, it's a 47-footer, there's got to be something that floats. There was never even an oil slick. There's just got to be some debris left. And then from there, it was rather difficult to get information at first, but we finally pieced together the fact that the boat had left from the Holiday Lodge and had gone out of its way to the pass. Actually, not out of its way, if it intended to go out of that pass and head into open sea. And then when I heard that the boat had come back into the intercoastal and was sighted under those bridges, that was just idiotic to me, because I knew Terry and John very well, and they loathed the intercoastal. The whole thing just didn't fit together, and it didn't fit them as I knew them.
Just tell them, Larry, if it's in your way. It's bothering you now? Huh? I have with us here, ladies and gentlemen, this is Phil Bauer.
Testing.
Yeah? Do they want me to do that? I forget what I said.
That's too close. They got me in the picture.
Phil, you know how this works?
No idea.
Well, what happens is that this is called a mini cam.
Yeah.
And that disc up there beams this picture all the way back to the television studio live.
Right.
And what happens is that they can be out on location somewhere like this, and if they want to cut into this mini cam system here, they just, in the studio, the guy on the desk just says, now we'll go to certain location, Patterson Field, wherever it is. They cut into the mini cam right here, and we pick up live whatever that camera's taking a picture of, right? They can either do that live, or what they can do is they can shoot it now and tape it, and then go to the tape, so they can use it either live or tape. And that gives them that, they don't have to process film then, which takes hours to process film. Then you have to cut the film and edit it, and this way they can get live coverage on an event that's happening right now, like, you know, it's especially important, like this game, or it's especially important like for fires or something like that. They can get right out to it and be very, very immediate.
How far does this?
Well, I don't know what the range is in terms of miles. Well, I hope so. Well, my interest was in just playing ball this summer somewhere professionally, as high in the minor leagues as I could play. Whether I pitch good enough to make it back to the White Sox is something I probably won't know for another month or two yet. But I've already realized my goal as far as that's concerned. I made a professional team, and here I am playing ball, and that's what I wanted to do. Just occasionally. I throw the knuckleball 90% of the time. I'll only throw those other pitches in certain situations when I get behind on a hitter, or if I've got a big lead or something and I don't want to walk a bunch of players. Sometimes I can tell when I'm warming up with it, but it's hard to tell. I'm still trying to find the pitch. It's still inconsistent for me. I don't throw it. It's not breaking like it should yet, and I'm still toying with my motion. So I got another 6 weeks or 2 months before I really get into a groove. Well, I don't have to have one, but if they call me up, I'll consider their, playing for them. Well, I like it. I guess that's the best way to put it. The most exciting thing I've ever done in my life was play baseball. I like ball players better than any kind of other people I've ever run into, and I like the competition. I like working out of doors. I like feeling good with my body, being in shape, and doing something physical. And I just don't feel as old as I thought I would feel when I got to be 38. And as long as I've got a couple years left where I can still run around and play ball, I want to take advantage of it. No, I don't have one planned. I might write my memoir someday. If I do, I'll probably include this as part of it, but I'm not here to write a book. I'm here to play ball. Okay, thank you.
Senate come to order. Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Adams, Mr. Baker, Mr. Bank, Mr. Clement, Mr. Edwards, Mr. Ellis, Mr. Fine, Mr. Gilmore, Mr. Goodwin, Mr. Higginbotham, Mr. Jones, Mr. Teague, Mr. Vaca, Mr. Waldrop, Mr. Wilson,
23 senators present. Quorum is present. The Senate is ready to transact business. Chair recognizes Chairman Franklin.
Mr. President, I move that we excuse all absent senators and the reading of the journal of the link to be dispensed with.
Question on the motion, dispense reading the journal, excuse absent senators. All in favor, signify by aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, so ordered.
I've often said that the Senate of Alabama ought to sue Ringling Brothers Circus for using our name, that we are indeed the greatest show on earth and not them. I assume you must already know that, in that you've taken up this late hour to come and watch this unusual session begin. I've been in the legislature some 11 years now, and I still have not fully understood what makes people of our general understanding to do such a thing as to meet at 12:01 in the morning. But here we are in living color, with most likely for the next few hours involved in much ado about nothing.
What are the events leading up to this particular talk session that we're having?
I think probably eventually it's the lid law, and the fact that a lot of people in the Senate just don't want to vote on the lid law and would prefer to use other matters as filibuster material. And I think eventually they're going to have to face up to it and either vote for it or against it. And I think if this filibuster lasts for several days, it's going to endanger things like the budget bills and a lot of other important legislation that should be passed during the last 10 days of the session.
Is the session essentially over except for the budgets?
Unless this filibuster is broken down fairly early, even with 10 legislative days left, if it drags on for several days or even, say, weeks, then the session could very well be over, and even the budgets could be endangered. And I think this would be a tragedy because the budgets are in a shape to pass with with ease.
Has there been any talk of cloture on this?
Well, this is going to have to be the ultimate decision that the Senate's going to have to make, because the only way to get the bill up to a vote is to invoke cloture. And cloture is something that the senators shy away from, but I think it's something that the people expect them to use under the proper circumstances. And I think at this point in the session that 24 senators ought to be willing to invoke cloture to at least let the Senate vote on important matters. That's the only way really to get them up to a vote at this point.
There are a good many of us, perhaps not enough, who really want to have a great deal of time to consider the lid law, and we are especially interested in having those people who want to pass the lid law to have a long time to consider it, because we don't want to pass it the way it is.
I can hear him and I can see him. It's a quiet airplane. Depends upon how low you are.
The Army does require close air support, and this is the first aircraft that we've had that has been dedicated to that mission. The demonstration we saw here today showed its maneuverability, and what we've studied here while we've been here at the War College show that it is survivable, so I believe it should fit the mission and do the Army quite well in a NATO environment. I'd say it's highly impressionable, very, very good. Maneuverable, impressionable, fantastic.
In terms of the other airplanes that I've flown, it will certainly outperform either the F-100 or the A-7, which I have my primary fighter time in the turning performance. As I say, that's what it was designed to do. It's actually brand new. Our squadron out at Davis-Monthan in Arizona has the first complement of airplanes right now. We've got 32, and those are the first 32 that have been designed. We got our first airplane last March, and it was officially accepted by TAC just a little over a year ago today.
I frankly think that under the rules of the Senate that they're supposed to send out all of these unless they have a hearing and there's some reason that they do not measure up to the requirements under the law. I do not think that they have the right to arbitrarily reject the nominations from the governor of the state, for instance. If that be the case, then you have a breakdown in the executive and legislative and government checks and balances. That means that no one that the governor ever nominated would be confirmed by the Senate of Alabama. And that's not the way it was intended. And if it's used in that manner, it is abused. And by usurpation, in my judgment, you could, of course, refuse to confirm, put out of the Rules Committee, any nomination that any governor ever sent to them. They're some of the finest citizens in this state, and in my judgment, it's a travesty and an embarrassing situation of these fine people that offered to serve on the various and sundry boards of Alabama that are to be appointed by the governor when they cannot even get considered and confirmed, considered by the Rules Committee.
Quite a bit. It was not working in the first and first, fourth, and fifth innings, but that's the way it is with a knuckleball. It comes and goes, and until I get it more consistent, I'm going to have nights like this. Well, I don't know. It's the motion I've always thrown with. Yeah, it's the only motion I've ever felt comfortable with, so it's the one I'm going to stick with. I threw knuckleballs in 1969 and 1970 with that motion, so it's not my motion. It's just a combination of things. You know, I've been away for a while, and it's going to take me a while to get the consistency I need. You know, I can go out there one inning and have a real good one, and the next inning I can't quite find it, you know. Well, I'm in great condition. It's not a matter of conditioning. If it was, I'd be in the big leagues right now. I'm in good condition. It's just a matter of getting enough innings pitched and getting more consistent with it. I have to work more with it on the sidelines, and I should have 10 starts by the 1st of June if he keeps me in the rotation. And I'd say by another five or six, 7 starts, I should be able to be throwing a pretty good one. Thank you. I hope it's good news when he calls me. Okay.
Thanks very much, Jimmy.
The initial search for the Flying Dutchman took several days and covered thousands of miles in the Gulf of Mexico. The crew of the Coast Guard Cutter the Dependable coordinated that search from here in Panama City.
During this search of 4 days, a total of 103,000 square miles of sea area were extensively searched by aircraft and the Coast Guard Cutter Dependable. October 29th, we were tied up here in Panama City and received a call from our operational commander in New Orleans stating that there was a pleasure craft Flying Dutchman overdue from Apalachicola to the vicinity of Tarpon Springs, Florida. We got underway at 2 p.m. and arrived on scene approximately 20 miles south of Apalachicola about 7 p.m. and commenced a night search. There had already been 9 aircraft on scene searching throughout the 29th of October. We arrived at Tarpon Springs, turned about, came back towards Apalachicola for the second day of the search. We had 10 aircraft on scene that day. It was an extensive search. On the 30th of October, the weather did deteriorate. Although we still had good visibility and overcast skies, winds increased to gust up around 35 knots. And we got a lot of blowing spray out there, which made the surface search pretty rough. The weather did improve on the 3rd day. The seas did decrease and the wind decreased and shifted a little bit to the northeast. And that was our best day for searching as far as visibility. We completed the 3rd day with negative sightings again. And the 4th day search pattern was again expanded with 9 aircraft arriving on scene. The weather again started to deteriorate on us, and we completed the search that evening with negative sightings from ourselves or any of the aircraft.
Well, all you can do is hope.
The Flying Dutchman came in shortly before noon on the 26th of October and docked over at the Rainbow Marina dock, which is about 100 feet from my dock here. They tied up and walked through and checked in our office there to see if it would be all right to leave the boat an hour or two in order for them to eat lunch and pick up some groceries uptown. I saw the two couples walk through our breezeway, walk on through our Rainbow Motel yard, and toward the grill restaurant where they were going to eat lunch. This was around noon. I later went to my Rotary Club meeting and came out of there about 1:30. I drove home for a minute or two and then came back to my dock, and sometime after 2 o'clock I saw the people, two couples, walking back with some groceries in their arms, and they walked back and got aboard their boat, untied their lines, and departed. They did not fuel. They went under the bridge, and the bridge opened for the Flying Dutchman. And that's the last that I saw of the Dutchman that day.